two wrongs do not make a right. I ask myself all the time, like, for asking myself, and I think you should ask yourself this as well. You should definitely ask yourself this: what value does this have? What impact will this have? What good will come out of me doing this? What is going to be the reward for me doing this? Like, what is the point of me doing this? Is this going to add to me in any way, or is it just going to take away from me, and is it going to waste my time? You can still be compassionate and permanently walk away from someone. It is very possible to say to a person, I wish you all the best with everything in my heart. I really do. I forgive you, but I cannot forget what you have done to me, so I'm going to put this boundary in place. I no longer want to see you or speak to you. Please leave me alone. Do not attempt to contact me. Or you could just block them on social media, block their number, and then delete it. Sometimes the truth is that someone needs to go and grow up and then go and move on with their life and find people that they are meant to find, people on the same level of maturity as they are, and for them to really have that fresh start. So yeah, we can be forgiving and loving and compassionate, but that does not mean that we need to keep people in our lives or keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. Hi community, welcome back to A Cupful. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. I hope we're all doing well and taking good care of ourselves. Today's episode is the very last one of the love series. February has gone by so quickly, and I'm actually shocked. I am so shocked at how time in general is moving at the speed of wind, of lightning. It's just going by very, very, very quickly. So today's episode is going to be all about compassion. It is, after all, rooted in love. It is rooted in kindness. It is rooted in coming from a good place and having good intentions. I would hope when we are being compassionate, it is not because of we are wanting to get anything out of it. That is not the reason why you should be compassionate to anyone. I think that we all have a duty to be compassionate towards other people as human beings in general, but just, as people that have experienced certain things, that have certain insights, I think we really do have a duty to show compassion to other people and to even teach others to be compassionate and encourage them to be compassionate. So I'm busy doing a course that focuses on many aspects of both work and personal life. One of the modules I've covered is problem solving, and one of the elements of it is compassion. In order to solve the problem, it needs to be approached with compassion. Consider how the people involved feel and how you are going to consider their feelings or feeling and needs in solving that problem. And I really like that in a lot of the case studies that I've done through this course, particularly in that problem solving module, it really focused on making compassion a important part of coming to a solution, of solving that problem. So it shows us as well that we can't really function in the world without being compassionate. You can't always come from a place of wanting to humble a person or wanting to be rude or wanting to exercise power over a person. You need to be compassionate. It's just really not healthy. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's not healthy to be living life from the perspective of wanting to exercise power over people and constantly be in control. That's not, no. In order to forgive someone, you need to extend compassion towards them. In order to forgive yourself, you need to do the very same thing. In order for your heart to not be hardened by the pain you have experienced, you need to have compassion. almost everything we do and say needs to focus on being compassionate. And I've realized that the absence of it only reinforces anger, bitterness, and hatred. That's such a real thing. It's a thing that, wow, I've experienced in my own life when I have lacked compassion, even in like a single moment, when I've lacked compassion for myself and I've, instead of chosen to be hard on myself and beat myself down, it would just reinforce just like such a very heavy energy of anger, and it would reinforce this bitterness inside of me, bitter towards myself. So imagine if you can't be compassionate towards another person, just how much bitter you're going to be towards them, you know. Also, I didn't say, but I have my fan on. So if there's a sound, I usually say at the beginning of the episode, if there is a sound, then that would be my fan. It's really hot. It's so hot. We're in the middle of a heat wave. I actually cannot believe this. Again, I'm recording like a week, 2 weeks in advance. So it's still very, very hot. And I'm struggling. And I just cannot switch. I cannot switch this fan off. So yeah, I hope you're not hearing any sounds in the background. But if you are, then that's the reason why. So yeah, anyways, I was saying that compassion is very important. Without compassion, you just are going to keep reinforcing anger and hatred and bitterness in your own life. And I think that it will take away the opportunity for you to see a situation from a different perspective, to see that a situation has different parts to it, that for a person to behave in a certain way, that there were many factors that have influenced that. Compassion just has also opened my mind in so many different ways. Like my mindset has shifted, my perspective on certain things has shifted. It's not very black and white for me anymore. I know that there are gray areas. I know that there are other things to consider, and I think that that is something that really helps me to be even more compassionate towards myself and towards other people. You could ask me how I could possibly suggest that you be compassionate towards someone who has hurt you. Because in order for them to hurt you, they probably were not very considerate or compassionate of you. So why should you? Okay, fair. We're allowed to ask these questions. I believe in asking questions. I believe in probing, investigating, wondering, asking. Well, number one, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Period. And that's just the hill that I am willing to stay on. Through sunshine and rain, through hailstorms and tsunamis, that is the hill that I'm going to sit on. That just because someone else did you wrong, you must do them wrong back. That's pettiness. That's not compassion. That is bitterness. That is anger. And one thing that I do not encourage on this podcast is getting back at people. It's showing a person that you can go even lower than them. Sorry to disappoint you if that's what you were hoping to hear. If it's the first time that you're listening to this podcast, absolutely not. That's not what I encourage here. We are grown in this space. We are trying to grow even more. We are trying to become more mature and move on from certain patterns of behavior and mindsets. So I'm not going to encourage you to go lower than the other person did. And if that's a space that you find yourself in, and if you have your own arguments for why you're going to go lower, then this is probably not an episode that you will understand, or you would understand where I'm coming from. Hopefully I can reach you and you can have a different outlook after listening to it. So I hope that, but yeah, I'm just saying that I don't reinforce that. I don't stand for that. Number 2, from how they treated you, you should be able to see what the only outcome of lacking compassion is. So look at how you've been treated, and look at how much more anger and pain and hurt is being reinforced or being perpetuated, perpetrated against you by that person. And then you need to ask yourself if you are willing to continue going down a path where you have that kind of attitude or mindset, or whether you would like to be better for yourself and to just be a better person overall. So look at what the outcome of being treated poorly is. Look at how not being treated with compassion and love has affected you, and then ask yourself if this is something that you are wanting to repeat. Like, just mindlessly do it over and over again, and then ask yourself what the reason would be. I've become such a big advocate for asking oneself. I ask myself all the time, like, for asking myself, and I think you should ask yourself this as well. You should definitely ask yourself this: what value does this have? What impact will this have? What good will come out of me doing this? What is going to be the reward for me doing this? Like, what is the point of me doing this? Is this going to add to me in any way, or is it just going to take away from me, and is it going to waste my time? And I think that also comes with just growing up and maturing and having a different understanding of life and how it works, and shifting perspectives and shifting your mindset and just adopting a new way of seeing things. It also comes with that, where you're going to ask yourself, the person that I'm becoming, the things that I'm trying to do, the place that I'm trying to get to mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, career-wise, is this going to add to the journey in any way? Is it going to be of benefit in any way, or is it going to pull me further away from where I'm trying to go? You know, in Exodus 34 verses 6 to 7, it says, "And the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abounding in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the third and the fourth generation." So if you listen carefully, and if it's something that interests you and you go back and look in the Bible, this is a perfect example of what compassion is. I just had to use that because it really, it got me thinking. It really had me. And I was like, I'm going to share this in the next episode. I'm going to use this as a reference. It is being merciful, gracious, that long suffering. It is starving your flesh of wanting to get back at a person or inflicting even more pain on them for the pain they inflicted on you, and choosing to understand and see them as a person who does not just exist as the person that has hurt you, but also as a person that has had many other experiences that got them to that point. Nobody wakes up and decides that they're going to be terrible, cruel, difficult. Whether we like it or not, and I've said this in a previous episode, that we are multifaceted, not just in talents, capabilities, blessings, but in that we have had many experiences that have shaped us. And some people, their experiences have made them better people, and other people are still in a place where they're trying to, or are still in a place where they are reinforcing so much anger and hatred and bitterness, and the things that they've experienced are definitely contributing to how they are showing up and who they are being, so it's just having that understanding that this person has had many experiences, and someone who carries things that are tormenting them that you do not know of and cannot see. Side note, This is why we do not rain hell on a person in an attempt to make them see their mistakes or wrongs. We kindly and gently go up to them and correct them. Okay, yeah. That abounding in goodness and truth part, that's instead of inflicting pain, it's having an honest conversation with that person without using words or tone or a certain tone to destroy their emotional and mental well-being. It is truly forgiving without holding a thing or things over someone's head. It's letting go. It then goes on to say that by no means clearing the guilty, and this is exactly what I was talking about in last week's episode about forgiveness. Forgiving someone does not mean letting them roam around and walk in and out of your life as if they did not do anything wrong. Absolutely not. You can still be compassionate and permanently walk away from someone. It is very possible to say to a person, I wish you all the best with everything in my heart. I really do. I forgive you, but I cannot forget what you have done to me, so I'm going to put this boundary in place. I no longer want to see you or speak to you. Please leave me alone. Do not attempt to contact me. Or you could just block them on social media, block their number, and then delete it. There's also that. So compassion is not the absence of holding someone accountable. It's definitely not that. Just like how forgiveness does not mean a person will still have a place in your life. Some people are just too stuck in their ways and need to be far away from you so that they can take the responsibility of working on themselves. And sometimes you will not be the person they need to or should be coming back to after they have worked on themselves. Not because of anything else other than the fact that you were a part of their past or they were a part of your past. And a lot of the time, the past needs to stay in the past and not be brought into the present or taken into the future. So, yeah. Sometimes you will not reconnect with that friend. You won't get back together with that ex. And don't force it. It's fine. Sometimes it will happen. It will happen. And that just means that those people are meant to come back together, but it's not everyone's story. And I think that that's something that we must just also understand, that life is really not a group project. It really isn't. Whilst I might be able to reconnect with a friend, an old friend, or you might be able to connect with an old friend, it doesn't mean that everybody else should either. But it also doesn't mean that just because of that relationship has ended, that you must now not be compassionate and not be kind. You know what I mean? So, yeah, holding people accountable shouldn't not have compassion in it, and finding solutions to problems should include being compassionate. And being compassionate does not also mean that you are giving someone the opportunity, the space, the leeway to just come and go and do what they want to do in your life, mistreating you, not handling you with care, and then they just have like the free will, the ability to roam in your life. That's not what it is. Like I said, you can still sit down with yourself and be like, oh my goodness, it's probably very likely that this person was acting this way because they were hurting, they didn't know any better, and I really do feel for them. That's compassion, and that's saying, yeah, and that's sad that they didn't know any better at the time, and that they spoke to me the way that they did, and that they felt that they could hurt me, or that they constantly hurt me and I also didn't say anything to them, or they constantly hurt me, but again, probably they didn't know any better. But that doesn't mean that now that I've forgiven them and I understand their situation, I'm gonna let them back into my life. No. Sometimes the truth is that someone needs to go and grow up and then go and move on with their life and find people that they are meant to find, people on the same level of maturity as they are, and for them to really have that fresh start, you know. So yeah, we can be forgiving and loving and compassionate, but that does not mean that we need to keep people in our lives or keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. It really doesn't mean that at all. Something else is, it's really important to learn to be compassionate with yourself. We make mistakes. We act in certain ways when we don't know any better. We make certain decisions when we are in certain places. Sometimes you are making decisions based on your finances or based on what you were conditioned to believe and see and how you were conditioned to behave. Sometimes we live in certain ways because everybody else is doing that, and we aren't really thinking critically, we aren't questioning things, we aren't analyzing things because not just you're just not in that place, you're not at that level of maturity. And then we grow, like I've been experiencing with myself. I have grown and changed so much over the last year, but just like over the last 6 months I have grown and changed so much. And obviously a contributing factor, big contributing factor to that was getting closer to God, right? So I've changed and I've grown so much. And really, yo, I was not prepared for the amount of maturity and growth that came with getting in alignment with the Lord. I'm grateful for it, but there is a certain kind of maturity that I have had to embrace and that I have had to understand is important for me to keep moving forward and thriving and growing. So, yeah, I say all of this to say that I've grown so much, and I have had to look at my past and really be compassionate towards myself and really forgive myself for some of the things that I used to do, things I used to say, the mindsets I used to have, or the mindset I used to have, the belief system that I had, belief systems that I had, social issues, the stance that I used to take on that. Like, I've had to be very compassionate towards myself, just looking back at who I was and what I had become okay with. I've had to be extremely compassionate with myself. And compassion is such an important part of being able to forgive yourself and move forward with your life and embrace that growth, embrace that maturity. Yeah, and I think compassion also really kills pride and it kills ego. It should kill those things. It should triumph those things. So the more I've embraced compassion, the more open-hearted I've been as well, the more tender-hearted I've been, and I'm so grateful for that. I am not prioritizing getting back at anyone anymore. I cannot even allow that into my way of thinking, into the decisions that I make. Getting back at anyone, humiliating a person, proving anything to anyone, no, absolutely not. And that's what happens when you adopt compassion. It just gives you a completely different perspective. Learn to be compassionate with other people as well. Want to be so honest, I have spent the last 6 months having to be compassionate towards myself and other people that are now in my past, and to really just understand that the fact that I spent a certain amount with the people in my past doesn't mean that I knew everything about them, and it definitely doesn't mean that I was entitled to knowing everything about them as well. And at the time, when I was less mature and I had literally no understanding of what God asks of me and who God is, the power that God has, let's just start there. When I didn't have that understanding, I felt like I was entitled to knowing everything about people, everything about a person. Guys, some things are just so traumatic that people would rather not repeat them. They don't want to relive them. Some things are just too embarrassing. Some things are just too difficult to face. You know what I mean? And so like I said, I'll repeat it, whether we like it or not, people are shaped by their experiences. They are shaped by their conditioning. They are shaped by how their caregivers used to speak to them, treat them. They are shaped by their difficult experiences in childhood. They are shaped by the challenges and the struggles they went through as teenagers. They are shaped by the confusion that has rocked them and just completely traumatized them in their 20s. You know, the experiences that traumatized them in their 20s. And so even when we are in relationship with people, we need to be extremely compassionate towards them and understand that this is a person that I am here with, whether it's a friend, whether it's a romantic partner. But I also understand that as much as I know them and as much as they are getting vulnerable and opening themselves up to me, I don't fully know them. I don't fully know what they've been through, and I'm really not entitled to knowing everything. Some things must definitely stay between us and God. We don't need to put them on social media. Don't need to trauma dump. You don't need to tell everyone that you know about certain things you've experienced. Let them stay between you and God, and let God be the one to help you work through that pain, work through that heartache, work through that trauma. You know what I mean? And of course, again, I'll always recommend therapy. Therapy 100%. If that's something you can afford, do it. Journal, write yourself letters, write the people that hurt you letters and then throw them away. Like, whatever works, as long as you are not always relying on other people to help you work through your problems. Like, it's good to have people in your life and to have them as a support system, but honestly, we just need to be able to rely on ourselves, be compassionate towards ourselves, be compassionate towards other people, and move on. Being compassionate towards other people will also require you to move on. Let it go and move on. It has happened. They didn't know any better. You didn't know any better. And you're still alive. You can still heal from that experience. You can still grow from it. Learn to carry compassion with you everywhere you go. It softens the heart so much. Like I said in the previous point that I was making, that people act the way that they act not from one incident. You know, let me make an example. This is how I see it. We are grown, right? People in their 20s. You're grown now. And you are growing some more. But you did not come out as a 20-something-year-old. You came out as a baby who couldn't walk, feed herself, just had no ability to do anything for yourself. The way you can bath yourself now, go to the shops on your own, the way you can feed yourself, look for a job, or go to work, or go to school, the way you're able to pick out your own clothes, you couldn't do that when you just come out of your mother's belly. You absolutely could not do that. And for many years to come after that, you were fully dependent on the people that took care of you, right? So you depended on your caregiver, and you needed your caregiver to take care of you. And along the way, you picked up certain things. You're very, very blessed if you grew up in a home where you were loved and you were taught the right values and principles, and you were just brought up right, you know? Maybe you grew up in a Christian home and you stand on your foundation is God. And just knowing that you are loved and supported and cared for by the people around you. And that's great for a human being's self-esteem. It's great for an adult self-esteem. It builds you up into like such an emotionally intelligent person, where you are able to handle your feelings. Perhaps you grew up in a home where you were being taught about financial literacy, so now you're good at handling your finances, and you're just good with people, you're good with your money, you're a great person to be around. And you were just taught that way. Those values were instilled in you, you were conditioned that way, you were brought up in a healthy environment. And so, what's most likely happening is that you are able to interact with people better. You're a much better grown up. You are able to navigate the world better. You are not conforming to the ways of the world. You're not being sucked in by what other people are doing. You have your values, you stick to them, and your life in general is quite good. And then there are people that had an opposite experience. Life was quite tough for them growing up. They were not particularly loved or appreciated or seen or heard. They have not really known support. They have not really known what it means to have a conversation with a person when they've hurt them, and then work through that with them, and then forgive them and move on. They were neglected emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually as well. They were kind of fending for themselves. They experienced a lot of trauma or difficulties and challenges, and they were just kind of left alone to figure things out for themselves. And so you can imagine that a person like that, when they are in certain situations, they will have a very opposite reaction to the person that I had first mentioned. They are more likely to be a lot less calm or offensive, because it does happen that when you've had like very difficult experiences, it affects you to the point where you feel like you need to defend yourself all the time. Like you're in a constant defense mode because you've always been in a constant defense mode. No one was there to defend you, so now you feel the need to defend yourself in every single situation, even situations where you're wrong. So they struggle with emotional intelligence. They struggle with things like taking care of money. Maybe when they have money, they want to prove to their caregivers or prove to the people that didn't care for them that, look, I have money, you didn't actually do anything to me, and I can dress nice, and I can buy expensive perfumes, and I can live a life. And they end up living a life that they can't afford. I think you're getting what I'm saying here. So what the truth is that we are shaped by the things we've experienced. And a person is not reacting explosively just because of what you did or what you said. We can control our anger. We 100% can. But some people, it was just not something that they were taught. It was not something that they were shown. And they're only realizing as adults that, there's actually work that I want or that I need to do, because this is not the way to behave. I'm scaring people away. I'm mistreating people. I'm just not a nice human being to be around. Some people realize it and don't really care, but some people realize it and it's actually such a hard pill to swallow. So carry compassion with you everywhere you go, simply because we have all had very different experiences. We are all very different people. And I don't need to know your story to treat you right. And I don't need to know your story to not return bitterness and anger with more bitterness and anger. I really don't believe in when they go low, go lower. It's just not who I am. It's not what I believe in. And I don't think we should be reinforcing that. It makes me so uncomfortable when people say, yeah, show that person. Show them who you are. Give them a piece of your mind. Give them a piece of you. I mean, you could, but then what? What good would come out of that? So yeah, compassion and taking it everywhere with you will really make your heart just soft. It will give you an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. Yeah, and having compassion will take you to a point where you are not engaging in certain thoughts and in certain things anymore. Like going low when someone goes lower. If you think about it, there actually is no need. Nothing good will come out of it. I think that when people say this person will know me and they will never mess with me again, is pride. It's more pride, more ego, more fear based than anything else. Because if you're feeling the need to show a person that you're not the one, if you're feeling the need to treat a person badly after they've treated you badly, it's not because of you protecting yourself or defending yourself. It's because of you are intimidated and you are prideful and you are afraid of how people will perceive you if you don't react in a certain way. Don't want to be perceived as weak. You don't want to be perceived as someone who can be taken for a wild ride. I say that when you can see disrespect, experience disrespect, the best thing that you can do, like I said, is to forgive a person, be compassionate towards them, forgive them, and then remove them from your life. And if it's a constant thing, it's a constant thing. It's not just a person did it once and then you addressed it with them. Is that they keep doing it and you have told them that you don't like it. Remove them from your life. Something else that I just want to say before I close off is the world that we live in right now is too comfortable with cutting people off after one experience of feeling disrespected or mistreated, which is something that I don't necessarily agree with. I definitely do not tolerate disrespect. Please hear me clearly. But I also don't believe from where I'm standing right now in my life and the understanding that I have now, I don't believe that we are supposed to cut people off. Like just cut a person off because of they've irritated me. Cut a person off the first time I have an argument with them or like a fight with them just because they said something that I didn't like. Obviously, yes, cut a person off when they've gotten physical. Please, there's no discussion to have there. But I believe that we are all learning and growing. And again, my faith is going to come into this conversation. I just love talking about Jesus, guys. I love talking about God. God has changed my life. God has opened my mind and my eyes and my heart. But yeah, from the perspective of my faith, I understand that when Jesus says, go out and make disciples of other people, I am in a position where I'm going to need to teach others and correct them with kindness and with love. And I'm still very much learning to do that. I have not perfected that or not gotten that right. Not perfected. I'm not going to use the word perfected. But I haven't gotten that quite right yet. I hope to eventually. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring it out. But yeah, I understand that I am in a position where I'm needing to teach people and to be patient with them. And yeah, that's just what life is. That's the cycle of life. We are meant to be encouraging, educating, empowering one another. When I have the knowledge, I shouldn't just cut you off and leave you out to dry. When I have the knowledge, I should open my heart and my mind and share it with you. So I don't believe that when a person has irritated you the first time, or you've had an argument with them for the first one argument, two arguments, they're like, I'm done with you. No. And that's something that this world is adopting, and it's so unhealthy and so unrealistic. I'll go back to it. We are shaped by our experiences, and some people were not as lucky to have great, amazing upbringings. And what's going to happen if we aren't interested or intentional about teaching each other and encouraging one another? And what's the point of having the information if I'm not going to share it? Why am I hoarding information? Why am I hoarding lessons? Why am I hoarding experiences when I can share them and possibly, hopefully, help someone else not have to go through that? You know what I mean? Or encourage them to get help, encourage them to have a more more of an open mind, and to be intentional about working on themselves and healing and growing, stuff like that. So yeah, guys, be compassionate, carry compassion with you everywhere you go. Be compassionate towards yourself, be compassionate towards other people. Just do everything that you do with intention and with love and with care. It's just so important to be compassionate and to handle other people with care and handle yourself with care. Yeah, guys. Yes. this is where we are ending this week's episode. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sticking it through, seeing it through, being here with me for the love series. I hope you enjoyed all of the episodes. I hope they added something to you. I hope that it encouraged you to share each episode with someone that you know would appreciate it, needs it, would enjoy it, would enjoy listening to these episodes. But yeah, overall, I hope that you had a good month of February. I hope you are excited to get into a new season. We're literally going into autumn here in South Africa as of the 1st of March. So yeah, that is lovely. I hope you have enjoyed your summer. I think it's still going to be like relatively warm until maybe like May, late April, May. But yeah, also nearly forgot to say, if you are wanting to put anyone on to the podcast, you know what it is. You already know what it is. You can share an episode with them, or you can let them know that they can go and listen to a snippet if they want to test the waters first. On TikTok, the handle is at acupfulpod. Otherwise, they are more than welcome to literally go on to Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Castbox, all of it, and just type in a cupful. Yes. Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Treat yourself with love, carry yourself with love, be compassionate towards yourself and be compassionate towards other people. Say nice things to yourself and say nice things to other people. Most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.